After generating the most amount of money that I have ever generated in a single calendar year, this has also been one of the most stressful years of my life. And I wanted to film this video to talk to you guys about some reflections, new thoughts, and ideas that have crossed my mind this year that will hopefully help you become a better entrepreneur and skip the mistakes that I did this year. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So let me tell you guys a little bit about what I did this year that I had never done before. I stepped outside my shell completely. I tried so many different things because I wanted to see what is the best fit for me as an individual at this stage in my life, at this stage in business. So the first thing that I did is I bought 3 houses in a matter of 2 months. So that was crazy. I had never purchased a property before in my life. I increased my watch collection from 1 watch to a little bit over $100,000 in watches. I purchased my dream car. And the reason I'm saying this is not to gloat, but to tell you guys which one of these things that I would have rather not done and done something else with either my time or my money. Another thing that I did is I opened multiple businesses that I decided to close down as well. So it's been wins and it's been losses this year. Even though financially I made the most amount of money in a calendar year, I will also say that this year has been the most stressful because of this newfound money. I have also taken on a lot more financial responsibility within my environment, within my ecosystem, within my family, within my friend group, and all of these things. Now, that's something I regret, but it's also something that I'm proud of. So I'm still in the middle of a limbo of who I want to be within these environments and what is my role as an individual. Now, what this also allowed me to do is I was able to get married this year. This has been the biggest win I've had all year. And I would say that because I was able to financially stabilize my life and my fiance's life at the time, I was able to ask her to marry me without the stress of, am I gonna be able to pay my rent/mortgage? Am I gonna be able to afford the cars that we have? Am I gonna be able to pay for everything for 2 people? Because I believe in that principle. I was able to accomplish something far greater than buying any watch or car or house in a manner that is not stressful at all. Most people, when they're making this decision, either they do it out of being blind for their current situation, or they do it out because of love, of course, or they do it out of being in a situation where they know they can do this decision because it's the right time and because they've set themselves up for success. So I'm super grateful for that. But the one thing I will say is that if I was able to exclude a lot of the environments outside of my inner household and strictly focus on that, I would much rather have done that instead of what I ended up doing this year. So if I spent all year focusing primarily on how I want to structure my family for the next 5 years, 10 years, instead of spending money going out with friends, things like that, I would have had a much more successful transition into being a husband rather than someone's fiance. The next thing I want to talk about is the real estate. Was it the right move? Was it not the right move? I'll walk you guys through exactly what I did. So I purchased a personal property. A lot of the online mentors say don't do that. I personally don't want to rent. I know it's a forced savings, and that's a great thing for me, but it's not about the savings. I know most of the first payments are interest. What I want to do with my personal property is gain on the appreciation, because I do believe the next year and the next 40 years with the new presidency that home prices are going to go up drastically. That's what I believe, and that's why I was okay purchasing a personal property rather than keep paying rent. Now, the second property I purchased a short-term rental. Now, this short-term rental, believe it or not, is actually more expensive than my personal property. What I learned is that based on interest rates that are going on right now, it's actually very difficult to make a ton of money on a short-term rental unless it's booked out the entire month, right? Like, yes, you can make money, but after factoring in expenses, you end up losing a little bit every month. Now, I'm okay with that because I want to gain on the appreciation and eventually sell this property. But if you're doing this to make active cash flow, you're not going to be successful because it's actually going to cost you more than what you're getting out of it. The third property that I bought, and again, I tested a lot this year, so you guys got to bear with me. I learned a lot of lessons. I feel like I definitely made the mistakes worth of 5 years of my life in this 1 year, so I was definitely beat down. The third property was a flip. I bought a property for about $250,000. It was a pretty rundown property. It was like not livable. It was horrible. And I hired a contractor to help me renovate this property. Now I put in $50,000 to $60,000 into this property, so I'm all in like $300,000. After a closing costs and miscellaneous payments and things like that, we could just call it $320,000, right? Now this property did appraise for about 400,000. So I did make money there, but my goal was for it to appraise for a lot more than that because I wanted to keep this property, refinance it, put a tenant in there, and do the BRRRR method that people talk about online. Now, what I also learned is that not everything online is true, right? So I learned that this strategy actually is much more complicated than what people make it sound online. So was it the right move? Was it not? I would say that I'm 5 out of 10 on this move because yes, I made money, but I also could have done a lot more with the 300,000 liquid that I put into this property. So overall, thoughts on real estate? Definitely not the move if you want to make cash flow, but it is a good move if you can afford to take slight losses in the short term to make money in the long term. This is a more business strategy advice where should you do it, it's based on your situation. And if you don't have a lot of cash flow with your business, I would recommend against it. The next thing I want to talk about is the watches. Was it a smart move to go from a $5,000, $10,000 collection to a $100,000 collection in 1 year? The one thing I will say about this is that I haven't seen an increase in appreciation on these watches at all. Almost nothing. It's almost negligible. I'm up maybe like 5 grand, but 5 grand on 100,000 in a year is like negligible, right? I could have just put that money in the S&P. But what I learned is that it opens doors in a very strange way. Most people will tell you that, oh, as long as you wear this watch, like you're good, like people walk up to you. That's actually not true. What I've noticed is that the less you care about these watches and these materialistic things, the more valuable they are to you. Because what I've seen is that when I wear a watch and I'm waiting for people to come to me, it doesn't work. If I wear a watch and I go talk to people, I get the space to be listened to. So if you are going to invest in watches, what I would recommend is invest in one good timepiece and not many smaller pieces, right? So my collection consists of about 6 watches and 2 of them are worth $30,000 each. You don't need that. You need one good watch and that's all you need. I personally regret buying all these watches. However, I'm not very upset about it because they still held their value. That means I could trade multiple timepieces for one really badass piece and have it be like a staple for when I'm talking or when I'm speaking on stages and things like that. Kind of demand respect from people who understand what this watch means. Now, like I said, it's not going to do all this BS that people tell you that it's gonna do online. People are not gonna walk up to you and tell you, I wanna buy whatever you're selling because you're wearing this watch. Like, that's all bullshit. What you wanna do is you wanna invest in one good piece and that's it. The rest is all bullshit. And last but not least, buying my car. I found that that was something I made a mistake with the year before, and I had corrected that mistake this year. I wanted to buy a car that generated attention, that I could go to events with, that I could go to rallies with. And last year I bought a Urus. Stupid decision. Like, yes, sick car, don't get me wrong, love that car. I'm gonna buy another one soon, but it's not a car that will achieve my goal because it's a car that is a very good daily driver, but not a good attention grabber. It's a very common vehicle right now where if someone saw it, like, yes, you might have like the people that are looking and things like that because it's cool, but it's not going to achieve your goal of being extremely out there because it's not extremely out there. There's a lot of them. So what I ended up doing is I swapped my car for a Huracan, which is a much better replacement in my opinion. Even if there is many of them, it's still less than the Urus and it's still regarded as a much more like supercar-ish car. And then on top of it, I added modifications that make my car one of one, which in that situation, it achieved my goal entirely. It's not how I usually like my cars to look, but nevertheless, it achieves my goal. Every single time I jump in the car and I go to any destination at all, I open my Instagram and I'm tagged in like 5 stories. So this is exactly what I wanted to do with this vehicle, and based on the amount that I put into it after purchasing it, I would say it was completely worth it because I've generated enough business already from this vehicle that paid it off completely. And I want to also keep doubling down on this idea that having a crazy car and generating a lot of attention is something powerful, and I want to be able to use it to change more lives other than just mine in business, where I want to take it to fundraisers, I want to take it to events, I want to take it to places where I can attract a lot of people and help these people invest into philanthropy so that we can help the community and grow together. Now, overall, been a crazy year, a lot of mistakes, probably more mistakes than wins, even though it looks like we won a lot. But I think that it guided me to the one thing that I needed to understand more than anything. All these things that I'm experiencing are things that other people will eventually experience at some point in time if they keep growing their business. And what I want to do in the next year is I want to go all in on building my personal brand and speaking about my mistakes, my losses, and my wins in order to share this experience with you guys so you can help improve your life and get feedback so I can improve mine from you guys in a way that is seamless and impactful. That's pretty much it for this video. If you guys want to stick around for the journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.